In your view, is this political retaliation for Australia calling for an investigation into the origins of the coronavirus?
Heidi, I think that it's unfortunate timing. We've gone through these issues before with labelling irregularities, as you called them. This is nothing new for us. These are non-tariff issues that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And then with the 110 countries that we export to around the world, we have to continue managing these on a daily basis. So, look, this is, as I've said, unfortunate timing, but we're working on it right now and looking to get those businesses back up into China as soon as possible.
The timing is not just unfortunate, but sort of highly curious, right? Because less than 2 weeks ago, we heard from the Chinese ambassador to Australia saying that as a result of the probe that Australia was calling for, that maybe Chinese consumers will decide that they won't want to drink Australian wine or they won't want to eat Australian beef. So that seems like a pretty huge coincidence. The previous incidences where this has happened in 2013 and in 2017 were also in response to, for example, Australia putting a ban on certain types of prawn imports as well, right? So it's pretty clear that there's a diplomatic angle to all of this.
Well, I can't really comment because I'm not a foreign policy expert, but what I am is obviously a meat supply expert. And we know very clearly that China and the Chinese consumer actually wants our beef, regardless of commentary, either in China or in Australia. And to that end, already to the end of April, we've seen beef exports to China, even in COVID times, above 10% from to end of April from the year before. And last year we sent over 300,000 tonnes of beef to China. So look, we think that this is not a beef industry issue. This is a specific company issue because unlike barley, which is looking at all barley exports, these are exports specific to those businesses. They've raised these technical issues, they've presented the information to everybody, and it's now up to us to go through and find it. And look, certainly in regards to the more geopolitical areas, look, our role is about putting steak and sausages and bacon on plates in Australia and overseas, and that's the area that we work in, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Is your government making that job easy or harder at this point? Are you seeing eye to eye with your government?
Oh, look, absolutely. From a trade minister's perspective through Simon Birmingham, and from our agricultural minister's perspective on the technical aspects through David Littleproud, look, we certainly are. And in the past, I have been public in talking about ensuring that in whatever the geopolitical discussions that need to take place, we need to be making sure that trade is not collateral damage. And both of those ministers, Birmingham and Littleproud, have that as their mantra to ensure that they make sure that doesn't happen. Handling areas of individual discussions from the backbench is always forced. But again, as I said, I'm not a foreign policy expert, so my commentary around that is quite new. But we are working very strongly with our government, and we continue to do that. And that is why we even saw last year, as I said, a rise in our beef exports to 300,000 tonnes under chapter, which has been beneficial for our whole supply chain, including farmers.
And this year, of course, the entire world has been affected by COVID-19. We are expecting a global recession. How do you expect that to affect your industry and your exports?
Well, people need to continue to eat, obviously, so we continue to be supplying that product. We've got a range of different areas that impact on us as a trading nation. From climatic, that we've gone through drought, which we're coming out of in some areas, but we're still suffering on in others, which has an impact on supply. Currency fluctuations, obviously, as the world's leading red meat export nation continues to have an impact on us, as well as other policy settings that occur on a non-tariff basis in a number of countries around the world. So we, though, see moving out of COVID, that Australia is absolutely well placed. We are the world's most reliable red meat exporting nation. We've seen consumption in Australia in red meat increase by 30% over the last 12 weeks. So we are very flexible to meet the requirements of any nation and any market, and we continue to do that. As I said, We've seen rises to the end of April on 2019 levels for beef into China as well as into Japan. But we have seen reductions into the US and South Korea. So we are able to move and be flexible and provide product where it's necessary. Well, not just where it's necessary, but where it's mostly economical.
Patrick, can you give us an idea of the impact of this latest, I guess, labelling tussle, if you will, with Beijing in terms of what percentage of exports from Australia this affects and how long it will take, in your view, to resolve, and the type of losses that are being faced by the businesses that are affected?
Well, we have these companies. They probably represent about 20% of beef exports at any one time to China throughout the year. That does fluctuate because of the products that these companies do provide. Some is manufacturing beef, some is high-level grain-fed, some is frozen grass-fed. So there's a range and a product mix that goes that fluctuates at that time. We know in China that we have also inventory that we're still working through. So whilst we've seen a rise in our export numbers, they had been mostly in January, early February, pre-COVID, and also Lunar New Year. So we've still got inventory that we have to progress through there. So look, the last time this happened, it was 6 plants across a number of different product lines, including sheep meat in 4 different states, and that took 3 months. We've got 4 distinct beef plants only in a basically a geographical region, no more than 200 kilometres apart, going out of 1 port. So I think that we can effectively manage these labelling issues very quickly. What we also have been doing, a lot of research and development has been undertaken by the industry over the past 18 months into enhancing our labelling techniques and requirements. We have to remember we're the 3rd largest manufacturer in Australia. We're the largest trade-exposed manufacturer in Australia. And so in manufacturing, we have these issues that we need to fix in regards to automation and labels. The key thing on labels for us is that sometimes labels that appear on the manifest don't link into labels that appear on cartons or in containers. So there's tolerance levels with China. We've breached those tolerance levels at these companies, and we need to then give them the reassurances that we've got these solved, and that's what we're working towards. So we don't see this as being a very large impact on us at the moment, but obviously the longer that this goes on, then the worse that it can get.
Are you worried about a potential reputational hit to Australian branded meat in China? Because we know that Chinese consumers can be quite patriotic in their consumption habits and can be rallied by their own government, right, in situations like this. So do you think that is a risk? And then by extension, should Australia be diversifying its export markets beyond a reliance on China?
Well, let's, in the past 100-odd years of Australia being exporters, and we've just celebrated 50 years of the first containered exports that have been for meat that have gone out from Australia, we've got to remember our flexibility. We have FTAs all over the world. We've just signed one with Indonesia, Hong Kong, and obviously Peru. We move product globally in... only going back 15 years to 2005, we only sent 1,000 tonnes of beef a year to China. In 2010, it went to about 5,500. In 2015, post-chapter, we were looking at 140,000. So, we're now at 300,000. So we can move the product mix, and we can move to other nations as we see fit, because our cattle herd hasn't increased. It's been the product mix that has increased and our ability to be able to service those markets. So if, in fact, there is one market that wants to go to another, we can manage that. And we do that across the world.